All right, let's talk Cincinnati Bengals. Of course, a few days ago, the news everyone has been waiting for finally dropped. The Bengals signed T. Higgins and Jamar Chase to long-term deals. We can finally move on to the rest of the offseason. And now we've got some contract details. They've started to leak out. And folks, this deal is really good for the Cincinnati front office. They did a phenomenal job working with both these two players, getting two really team-friendly deals. We'll break down the numbers in just a second. But first, I'm Nick, that's Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Bengals front office took a lot of criticism, and rightly so, for the length that this process took. They waited to extend Jamar Chase. It took years for T. Higgins, but they got it done. Chase and Higgins package deal together. And really going into it, I think a lot of people thought, oh, this was just going to be, the Higgins Chase. We're just going to rob the Bengals blind, and just the Bengals were going to be caught flat-footed. That's just what was going to happen. And they now would have to pay the piper. But now that the details are starting to come out, and credit to Albert Breer over at Sports Illustrated, he's published some of them. Not all the specifics have come out, but enough in terms of guaranteed money and structure has come out where we can piece together how these deals work. So let's start with Jamar Chase here. We got a great chart. Let's go and throw it up here. So here on the bottom, I've got on a per year basis for this deal. So remember, this is a 4-year extension. So he's got the 2025 deal. The last year of his rookie deal is still in place based on current information. This could change, but it's currently structured that way. 2025 will stay the same. And then 2026, 2027, 2028, 29, the 4 years of his extension, and then the average of those years. You can see the valuation on the left and then the cap hit. Now, the cap hit we were able to figure out based on the contract details that Albert Breer put forward, and the valuation is based on 2024's numbers, and then assuming a 9% salary cap increase every year coinciding with the valuation increase. 9%. It grew a little bit more than 9% this past year, so we're just going to say 9% going forward. It's a rough estimate, but you can see here, looking at these numbers, how it shakes out. In 2025, the valuation of Jamar Chase, a lot bigger than the cap hit. 2026, the cap hit about the same as the valuation, a little bit bigger, still a fair price, of course. 2027, 2028, and 2029, all in those next 3 years, valuation much, much higher than cap hit. On the far right, you can see the average. Jamar Chase's valuation, expected valuation over the life of his extension, is significantly higher than his average cap hit over the extension as well. What does this mean? It means the Bengals got a great deal, right? Now, look, they had to do a lot of guaranteed money. I think there's like $73.5 million guaranteed. So it's a big check to write, and a lot of money is going to be flowing out of the pockets of the Bengals front office to pay for Jamar Chase. So we'll get to T. Higgins in just a second. But if you look at just pure cap structures, dollars allocated against the Bengals salary cap versus the expected value Jamar Chase will provide, it's undeniable that the Bengals did a great job. They didn't get a fair price for Jamar Chase. They got a great deal. Now let's jump over to T. Higgins and take a look at that. This is where it really gets interesting. So the Higgins deal was a strictly 4-year deal. It was an extension, of course, because he had been franchise tagged. His contract was essentially up. So if you look at the 2025, 2026, 2027, and 2028 numbers, then of course the average at the end, 2025 and 2026, the valuation for cap hit, his valuation is much, much larger than the expected cap hit. And then 2027 and 2028, the cap hit's a little bit larger than the valuation. And then the overall average, the valuation, a little bit larger than the cap hit there at the far right side of the chart. T. Higgins is a little interesting. There's not as much details that have come out. The one way we know is currently structured, however, is that pretty much all of the guaranteed money is front loaded in terms of the heavy salary dollars are on the back end. So we expect major contract restructurings after the first 2 seasons. So really, this was a 4-year deal signed for T. Higgins. From the Bengals perspective, it's essentially a 2-year deal. So just focus on those first 2 years, 2025 and 2026. And you can see based on those 2 years, the Bengals got themselves incredible value. All right, Miles, that's enough for me for right now. I'm curious your thoughts on all this latest Bengals information. But first, Cincinnati fans, in the comment section below, now that you've seen this data, now that we kind of walk through some of it, more details are coming out. How would you grade the Bengals process here and their final execution of signing Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, right? Do you still think it took too long and was painful? Give it a C. Do you hate everything about it? Give it an F. Now that you know the data, do you think they actually did a pretty good job? Give it an A. Whatever it is, give us a grade in the comment section below of how the Bengals went about and the final execution of this deal with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Again, put it in the comment section below. Want to hear from you guys. But Mize, over to you now. What are your thoughts on all of this involving the Bengals?
Yeah, Nick, I think this is a really good, signings for the Bengals, both of them. I think, they're a little bit different. I think Chase probably a little bit better value. I think Higgins makes sense, but, his is more favorable toward the front part of it, gets a little bit less favorable for the Bengals towards the back part. But like you said, probably going to lead to some restructuring and things along those lines to make those numbers make ends meet. But uh, my hat's off to Mike Brown. Everybody complains about what he was doing, dragging his feet, going through the mud, but they get it done. And they get it done in a way where they didn't really kind of, cut their leg off to, service the whole team. They just did it smart. I think this is something that we don't see happen that often. Usually when something is in this, unfortunately, it was like that. It was a, bloody, tough negotiation, multiple people threatening to leave the team, come back to the team, take their pictures off Instagram, put their pictures back on Instagram. For all intents and purposes, this was a pretty brutal negotiation, I think, through the Bengals. And hats off for the Bengals. I know people kind of like really nailed them down for this one, saying you had to get this done, you had to get it done, whatever it takes now, just get the deal done. They didn't succumb to that. They actually, like you said, you showed the graphs, they got a good deal for the guys. So, I mean, as much as you hate how it's happened in the past, everyone calls the Brown family cheap. I think Katie Blackburn's really doing a great job of turning things around from what she's done since she's gotten here. But it just shows the Bengals are shrewd negotiators here. They were able to get you two of your favorite receivers back. Joe Burrow is going to be happy. This team's offense is going to be beneficial going forward. And when you look at the numbers, they did a good job for themselves as well. Everybody's happy. Agents happy. Players happy. Quarterbacks happy. The Brown family is happy. I don't think that they possibly could have done a better job here. I really just hats off to the Bengals here. A lot of people aren't going to say this. A lot of people haven't been saying this, but I think it's time to give them their flowers. The Bengals did a really good job here. And the way that you broke down the numbers to me just shows exactly how good of a job they did. I don't think many other teams could handle it the way that the Bengals were able to handle it. And I think that this is going to go down as one of the better duo re-signings we've seen in recent memory.
Well, wait, Miles, there's more. Let's go back to T. Higgins. In fact, if you want to go ahead and throw out the chart again, it gets even better for Cincinnati because when you really get into the weeds, the Bengals did what the Bengals tend to do, a little bit on the cheaper side, but they actually did a really good job protecting their downside. So, of course, you can see this is very much backloaded. But in each of these 4 years, there are $2 million of game bonuses that are available for T. Higgins only if he plays in those games. So they basically have injury insurance to the tune of $2 million per year. And here's the crazy part. He signed a $30 million cash signing bonus. I believe $20 million due this year, $10 million due next year in terms of just cash. That signing bonus is spread out for cap hits over the 4 years evenly. But none of his base salary, his game check, is guaranteed money. None of it. What does it mean? It means that if after 2 years, God forbid, T. Higgins can't play anymore or he's hurt or for whatever reason, the Bengals, the dead cap would be zero. They can move on, right? They have ultimate flexibility after the 2026 season. And that is absolutely bonkers, right? There is no team in the NFL that I've seen this entire offseason, except maybe the Packers are able to pull this off every once in a while, that can structure a deal like this. I know the Bengals were just absolutely crucified, and you brought it up. Oh, it's taking too long, and they're struggling. What are they doing it? Why is it taking so long? And I get it on the Jamar Chase side because if they would have signed him earlier, they could have gotten an even better deal. But like we showed, they did get a good deal with how it's structured today. But I think the T. Higgins thing is absolutely brilliant because, again, almost none of it is guaranteed, right? In terms of the life of the entire deal. And all of the guaranteed dollars, all the cash essentially goes away. And then it's on a per game basis, basically starting in 2027 and through 2028. So again, if after 2026 they want to retool this thing, figure out, hey, T. Higgins isn't part of the future plans or whatever they want to do, or if they want to trade him, again, there wouldn't be any dead cap penalties, or at least a very minor one. This is ultimate flexibility here for the Cincinnati Bengals. And this is what having sometimes that kind of cheap negative mindset can bring you, right? You can be creative, you can think of unique ways. And the Bengals have so much downside protection against this T. Higgins contract. It's absolutely bonkers. Now, T. Higgins, he's happy because he's going to get $30 million in cash. He got a $20 million cash check essentially within the past week. That's pretty good. He'll get another $10 million check next March. And again, he'll get, about $13 million in game salary checks this year and about 10, a little over 10 next year. Then it'll really ramp up. But again, after 2026, nothing guaranteed, or very, very little, I should say, gives the Bengals ultimate flexibility. So again, it gets even better for Cincinnati. I honestly don't know how they negotiated it this well, considering that I thought Jamar Chase and T. Higgins had all the leverage, especially when Joe Burrow came out and said, hey, get it done. I thought the Bengals would basically have to give out like a Deshaun Watson kind of contract to Jamar Chase and something close to T. Higgins. But they didn't. They got it done. Got it done. I mean, I tell you what, Tobin, the Blackburns, the leadership of Cincinnati, you got to give them a lot of credit here because I thought they had no leverage. I thought they were either going to have to screw up the situation with the team and get rid of one of these guys. Instead, they got them both back for at least 2 years, maybe longer, in the most team-friendly way possible, and both players are happy as well. This is the ultimate win-win situation. You never see this happen in the NFL, certainly not with a team like the Bengals that at least it looked like they were screwing it up. Instead, it turned into a huge win. Phenomenal job, extraordinary job by Cincinnati.
Yeah, Nick, and I think if we look at what the Bengals have done, you obviously see, they've spent most of their time in the offseason so far doing this, retaining players on their own team. They haven't really dipped their toes into the free agency pool whatsoever. Now that all of this is done, this is obviously numero uno on their plate to get things done. We're starting to see the rumors flying because there's guys that are still out there. You're hearing, Calais Campbell's interested in the Bengals. That's a player, around league circles. They're thinking maybe he goes there. They're trying to dip their toes, see where they can come across, and, bring some value in. And that's the other thing I want to bring up here is the fact that, and I looked at this and I believe it is correct. I checked Spot Track. I looked at Cincinnati Bengals. Higgins and Chase's new cap hits are on there as well. So they still have $28 million in cap space this year. There's a good amount of money for the Bengals to still pay whatever rookies they've got coming in here and go get a couple of free agents that can add value to this team. So they didn't mess themselves up this year. If they're able to go out, get some players, that all-in move is still available. They're able to bring in some, quality depth, maybe some, hyper niche guys that bring, just a great pass rush or something like that. They're a little late to the party free agency wise. I'm sure they're glad they got this move done though. But the Bengals, they're still open for business and they have a little money to play with as well.